When learning to count in fives, children first need to recognise which numbers are in the fives that they're using. You can do this using fingers. So you might have your hand, you might paint one of their fingers, their pinky finger, and then they can count along. And they know that every time they hit their pinky, that's a number they're going to be using. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. That gives them the idea of what we mean when we say we're counting by fives. They're seeing every fifth number. And you can also look at this on a number line or even a hundreds grid if you wanted to. So same thing again, just like on your fingers, we're counting every fifth. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, mark it on, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And as they go through this and keep going, they might hopefully start to see some patterns and be able to write out, or you could write out for them, the numbers in the sequence, and they might be able to spot the patterns. From there, they'll start to be able to recite them and remember them and then use them in games. Chalk is great for use outside. You could create a number line like this with all the numbers so that children are recognising which ones are counting by fives. So you'd start at the beginning and they'd have to hop to the ones that were counting by fives. So they'd hop onto 5, hop onto 10, hop onto 15, etc. So they're learning which numbers are in the fives. Once children know which numbers are in the fives and are counting by fives, you can have a number line of just the fives and they can play games with them. For example, they might want to just hop onto them while they count 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, or they might want to do games where, for example, they stand on a number and see if you can guess what they're standing on. Or they could do this with the siblings, or they could put a toy over a number and see if they can find it. So anything to cover them up and find the missing numbers. Any activities involving hands is great for counting in fives. You can also use feet because obviously the number of fingers and toes lends itself brilliantly to this. So you could count using a tray of sand, or in this case salt or sugar, just simply pressing in 5, 10, 15, etc. You can also make a number of handprints and see if your child can tell you how many fingers there are altogether. They can also do that for you. Handprints also work really nicely outside. So you can make prints, 5, 10, 15, etc. and you can create yourself a number line on the ground. You can then use it for children to hop along, to count, or just to play any creative games that they come up with. Counting fingers on family members is also great. If you don't actually have other people in the house with you, why not just use a photo like this? And you could have a look and you could be counting how many fingers you can see, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, etc, etc. You could also use dolls. If your child has a lot of dolls with fingers and toes, you can do that. Be creative. Pegs are a really simple and effective tool that can help with things to do with number lines. So you could have a peg line like this, and you could have a toy come along and steal one of the pegs and see if your child can tell you which number has been stolen. You could also have the toy come along and mix up all the numbers so they're in the wrong order, and then your child would have to put them back into the right order. Using 5p coins is a really handy way of teaching how to count in fives, and it's nice and practical as well. So if you can get your hand on a few 5p coins, you can use them perhaps with toys, and they could see how much money everybody has, so 5, 10, 15, 20, etc. Or you could give different amounts to different toys and see if they can tell you how much each toy has. Another way to use 5p coins is to say to your child that you're going to count out some coins into a cup, and they have to tell you without looking how much is in there. So they have to listen. So you might start small like this, and they'd have to tell you that was 10. Or you might keep going, and they'd have to be listening out and counting in their heads to tell you how much is in there, and then at the end you can tip it out and you can check whether they were right. So there were plenty of games for counting in fives. Be creative, use hands, use feet, and get children engaged with their favourite toys.